how'd you pronounce your name? Just Kame or
KidKame, yeah,
KidKame?
KidKame,
All right.
yeah.
Oh, all right. So, where did you grow up, and was like your city, hometown, or neighborhood like a big place for music in terms of being an industry city, or just as a community in a way?
Well, I was born in Nova Scotia, Halifax. I said it backwards. It should be Halifax, Nova Scotia. But yeah, so I was born there, but I moved out there when I was 2. So I actually lived in Regent Park in Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in Regent Park until I was like, I think 6, 7 years old. So I wasn't there for the majority of my life, but I would say just even being downtown in Toronto is a very good place for music. But obviously, I wasn't into music at that time. Like, of course, I liked music, but I wasn't making it. Then I moved to Brampton, um, and I lived there for like about 10 years. Uh, and I guess musically, Brampton is kind of dry, but there's still like kind of a lot of activity down there that goes like kind of undiscovered. Um, and honestly, I just think Brampton music is kind of just mimicking Toronto's music because, of course, they're so close to each other. But now I actually live all the way in the Barrie area, and it's really dry. I mean, there's a small music community out here, but when it comes to big industries, not at all. So it's kind of difficult for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know that you said with Regent Park, like it had, like I know you like lived there for a bit. Regent Park had like Smoke Dog and the 5 Point Generals as well as like Moji, Safe, and Puppy Elves too. And with Brampton, they had Northside Benji, who's also like a big artist as well, like in Toronto. So like having like those areas too, like they do have some big artists like here and there too. As far as Halifax, I know that you said you were born in Halifax. The closest that I can remember would be classified being born there, I think. I don't know if he's born in Nova Scotia or not, but that's what I'm assuming.
I didn't know that. I'm kind of I'm not really known. I don't really know much about Canadian music. Not gonna lie, I don't even really listen to Drake, so that's a bad
Sure.
start.
I know what you mean. What was your musical like background in history, and what made you decide on wanting to become like a rapper and a singer-songwriter? Like because you do like some raps in some of your songs, and you also sing for a bit too. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to family, I guess I had a few brothers that wanted to rap, but they didn't really do much with it. I always enjoyed singing a lot back then. I didn't even like rap back then, surprisingly, because I really love rap now. Actually, I used to say, "Oh, rap is not real music. It's basically just talking on a beat." I used to be one of those kids. Uh, but yeah, so I randomly found my love of rap, and I started getting really interested in rap and making music. I started off with making beats on iMovie. You know, the video editing app.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
weird because it's like I have a Mac, this GarageBand, but I was using iMovie because GarageBand was too scary for me. I'm like, I don't want to use this. So what I would do is I would find like a sample, and I find like a drum loop, and I'll just go on iMovie and I'll just put those sounds together. And I'm like, oh look, I just made a song. But in reality, it's just like colliding two things, which I guess that's still a form of sampling, but it's very primitive. Um, but yeah, I've had siblings that wanted to make music, but they never really got into it. So when it came to trying to find my way into the industry, of course I had some kind of help from my family, but not really much. I kind of had to do it all by myself. Um, but yeah, once I started making music, I started off with producing, and then I eventually went to GarageBand, but I didn't really like what GarageBand really had. They didn't really have the right drum sounds for me, or really enough I could play with. So I ended up getting FL Studio. Once I begged my parents and kind of made them like, I'll buy this for you because it's really expensive. I didn't have the money. It was like 200, I think. It was probably even more actually. So once I got that, I started producing. I was really trash, but then I was like, this is not what I want to do. I want to start singing, and I want to start. I was a really trash rapper, so I was just mainly focused on singing. But then the more and more I listened to lo-fi music, I was like, oh, wait up, rapping on a lo-fi beat's actually pretty sick. So I started rapping. I eventually got better.
True, true. I know what you mean. I know you said with iMovie that you started your production there. I don't know if you actually did like music videos on movie first, because I know in some cases too, like with most artists too, like especially with the more underground ones, like they've actually done like music videos on iPhones. So I don't know like if you've ever done that before, or if you ever like had that idea in the past as well.
I've had the idea to film a music video using iMovie and my own iPhone. I actually did it, but I ended up scrapping it because it wasn't really that good. So I kind of just said, all right, one thing with me is that I want everything I do from now on to be like high production. So I have connections that could just easily help me do a music video with video equipment anyways. So I just figured doing something as primitive as, no disrespect to those who do it, because obviously some people might want like a kind of lo-fi quality to their music videos, but that's not what I'm interested in. So I'd rather just have it done by like an actual director or producer that has the equipment.
True, true. All right. And also, how did you get the name like KidKame, and what was like the inspiration like beyond your stage name for that in that way?
My name used to be Edgy, and I thought it
Hmm.
was the most cringiest name ever because like who calls himself Edgy? And then I changed it to Edge, but I still didn't like Edge. So I'm like, okay, it's time to finally change my name. And you watch Dragon Ball, you know Dragon
Uh,
Ball.
yeah, I've seen Dragon Ball here and there too, and especially with some of the characters too. I think what's that? Because like I'm not like really big on Dragon Ball, but I've seen like some like clips here and there too, and it's actually kind of fun too as well. So yeah,
Yeah, so there's this character named Master Roshi, right? And
yeah,
pretty much in the show, once you get kind of past all the perverted stuff he does,
yeah.
like at the core, he's like a master of martial arts. He teaches the main character, which is Goku. He was his first master, well, his second master actually, but he's pretty much known as this like master of martial arts, right? And I thought, there's so many characters in Dragon Ball that have kid at the beginning of the name, like there's Kid Goku, there's Kid Gohan, Kid Goten, and there's even a rapper that's called Kid Trunks. And I'm like, Kid's a pretty cool name, and I love Dragon Ball a lot. Who's a character that would be unique? And Master Roshi, another name that Master Roshi goes by is Kame-Sennin, or people just call him Kame. So I'm just like, he's a master now, but he started somewhere, right? So I'm like, I guess I'll be Kid Kame. Like I'm Kid Roshi. Like I'm a kid that's gonna become a master in the future. So that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That actually seems like pretty dope too. And I'm not like really a big fan of like Dragon Ball Z, but I'm actually going to like watch that someday too, just to find out like the references and such like that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most famous moves from Dragon Ball is Kamehameha. You know, that's where the whole attack comes from because the person who made it was Master Roshi. So Kamehameha. I sound like a nerd, I know. Just bear with me, I know.
All right, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And also, what artists or genres are you mainly like influenced by, like in terms of your sound? And like in the future, do you have like any artists or other musicians that you would like to work with someday in a way?
Oh, yes, definitely. Kanye West. Kanye West is my favorite, one of my favorite artists, if not my the favorite artist of mine. He's such an amazing producer, and he's not the best rapper, but it's honestly not really what I'm looking for because I'm not really like a rap snob who was like, oh, you gotta be lyrical. As long as the music and the production, I'm more of a production person because originally being a producer, I'm like I usually listen to the instrumentals and the way that the vocals kind of match with there. Of course, lyrical content does matter, but it's not something I harp on all too much. And Kanye just always had just like amazing production to all of his albums. One of my favorite albums is two of my favorite Kanye albums, Life of Pablo and Ye, which I know a lot of people don't really like his newer works, but I honestly, this might be controversial, but I think new Kanye is better than old Kanye. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just something about new Kanye that I really love. Another artist that I really look up to when it comes to singing and vocals is Stevie Wonder's. He's such an amazing vocalist, and he's just an amazing singer. And when it comes to performance and overall just like star power, Michael Jackson has always been like my number one idol since I was growing up. In fact, it was actually him that kind of made me want to start music. Because when I became a Michael Jackson fan, I would watch like videos of him performing, and I'm just like, this is a human being. Like this is someone. Like it's possible to be like this, and it's so amazing. So those are the artists that I mainly look up to. And of course, I do listen to some trap music. I enjoy some Playboy Cardi. He's one of my more favorite kind of mumble rappers, as some people like to put it. And I guess I would kind of want to work with them someday, but I'm not really all that. I'm not really pursuing working with Playboy Cardi, but I would definitely like to probably work with them someday.
True, true. As far as like for me, like in terms of the old Kanye versus like new Kanye, I'm more of an old Kanye like fan in a way, just mainly out of like his first three projects alone, like with College Dropout to Graduation. Like I don't think there's like any other album that could beat that. Well, except for like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But like in terms of like the idea of Kanye, like what did you think about his new Christian album that just came out?
Um, Jesus King is kind of divisive for me. I'm not sure if I used that word right, but I kind of I can't come to the conclusion if I like it or not. When I first heard it, I'm like, there were some good songs, but it's definitely his weakest album. And I think the whole Kanye fan community kind of agrees that Jesus King is his weakest project. Um, he was gonna drop Yandi, which probably would have been great, but obviously, I love the fact that he's more embraced in his Christian faith. Because honestly, like if you listen to Ultralight Beam or some of his, Jesus Walks, um, those are like Christian inspired, like those are like Christian music, but that's some of his best work. So I feel like if he was to make a gospel album, it would have been great. But Jesus King just didn't hit. Um, Also, you mentioned My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I'm actually the only Kanye fan that doesn't like that album.
I mean, it is like a pretty great album, like in various cases. I know, like in some cases too, like production wise, it's high, but like with just the content from other artists, like with Rick Ross's verse, and like I think with some other ones that aren't really needed, like I do feel like it could be reduced for a bit, but like just even like Nicki Minaj's verse on Monster, as well as like the standout tracks like Went Away and like All of the Lights, and also Devil in like a New Dress too. Like those are like some hard hitting tracks that solidified like his sound as an artist, especially Power too, you know.
I just think it's overly produced. That's my point. I think it's too ambitious. It's like I could admit that the production and the music itself is like grand, but like it's like you need some kind of interlude. Like you just need like softer songs. I don't know. I'm more of I'm a big fan of like kind of soft music, like R&B, soul. I listen to a lot of obviously some of my artists, some of my favorite artists is like Stevie Wonders and stuff, and Frank Ocean I admire a lot too. So it's just like when I just hear this overly produced all the way through the begin to end kind of album, it's like wow, it's too much. It's like being in a parade. It's like yeah, it's cool, but like everything is a spectacle. The one everything is a spectacle, nothing is. So I don't know. It's just I think it's just too much. It's
Yeah.
just too much for me.
I know what you mean. Just speaking about like your recent tape, Pink Polygon. I actually like said earlier that like it's actually a very great project and something that people could like look forward to like in the future too, like if they're trying to find more of a unique lo-fi sound. So tell me more about like the creative process for the project and what inspired you to make it in a way.
I actually really don't like Pink Polygon. A lot of people really like it, but I actually don't like it. Um, Pink Polygon, when it comes to like what conventionally is an album, it's not like what you would normally call an album because pretty much what it is, it's a compilation of music that I made from 2018 to like maybe a few songs being from like earlier this year. So you mentioned how obviously it's lo-fi and the whole point is kind of like low quality and stuff. but you mentioned how it's like kind of you didn't say amateurish, but I'm gonna say that. And it's because it's a compilation of like songs old Kame, the less experienced Kame, where my mixing wasn't all that good. And one thing I want to do as an artist actually is break away from the lo-fi kind of scene because I would always love lo-fi. Lo-fi is a really chill genre, but when it comes to me as an artist that wants to move forward in life and in my music career, I just don't feel like lo-fi is really the genre for me. You know, you mentioned how some of my songs are like kind of R&B pop. Those are the two genres I really want to get into. Kind of a R&B, hip hop fusion, pop fusion, like pop rock. I think pop rock would be really cool. Just pop music in general. Not necessarily saying that I want my music to be mainstream, but I just don't want it to be kind of in a bubble because I feel like a lot of lo-fi artists never kind of get out of that lo-fi bubble, and it's really tough because lo-fi pretty much means that you're bound to just make kind of underground, low key, low production music. And I know there's a lot of lo-fi songs that are generally good and could probably be played on the radio, but artistically it's just not where I want to go. But I do cherish PinkPolygon when it comes to kind of reminiscent or like nostalgia because it's like yeah these are old songs that I made and you know they'll always have a special place in my heart. But I don't want it to kind of represent me as an artist.
Yeah. I know what you mean too. Do feel like in due time too, like when you make new music as well, you have to like look into like different avenues to see like how the direction will go, like what will be like a new creative process, like what theme do I want to focus on? Because every other project that you see from a big name artist is like very different. You know, one day they'll talk about like their legacy, the other time it's more concepts, and in other cases it might be a Christmas themed album or like a love themed album. So you just have to look at like what your fans like want to see or like what new listeners like want to see and hear from you in a way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I,
like
my bad. You finish.
yeah.
You finish.
And like one thing that I actually did like about the project was the cover art. Actually, it kind of has like the unique, young, like a unique young style to what you want to portray as, like from the past before too, just with the signature beanie, with the signature like overalls too, like it kind of has like a unique style, and even with the straight like black hair as well, like it's actually kind of dope that you see the cover art like in that way.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy about the cover art because everything in the whole project, my favorite aspect is actually the cover art. I drew it and actually I kind of merged the like a cartoon drawing I did of myself, kind of with the picture that I took. I'm like, I mashed them together, kind of changed the colors and added like a grainy filter. I'm like, wait a minute, this looks beautiful. And I like how you brought up the fact that it kind of brings back like a childlike kind of aesthetic. And one thing that I've always strived to do is make sure that uh, my music is like I want to make music for like kids, pretty much. Not like kids bop kind of music for kids, or like just like childish things. Like I was trying to make more adult themed music, right? But my whole image isn't all sexy thugging or drugs or anything like that. My whole image is an innocent like an innocent kid like KidKame, and that drawing was supposed to look as like kind of cutesy as possible, and just the whole photo itself when it comes to the colors because I was a visual artist before I was a musician. So when it comes to the cover, like I wanted to make it look as nostalgic as possible with like kind of the soft kind of pastel colors, the kind of like nostalgic looking background with like a kind of a darkish blue sky, and you can see a building, a tree, and then you just see like this drawing of like a kid. Obviously, he's not a kid. I'm 18. It's a drawing of me, but it looks like a kid. It's just like, and even with the companies, the music kind of sounds nostalgic because it's lo-fi, and my voice is typically high pitched, so it's like, oh, this kind of feels good. Like it brings me back to when I was a kid. And one of my songs, Young Ness, the song is actually about like a child like an elementary crush. Like if you were in elementary, you had a crush on a girl, or like if you were in middle school. I would say middle school. Like if you were in middle school and you had a crush on a girl, I wanted to kind of portray that kind of pure and like innocent, non-sexual kind of feelings for a girl. You know,
Yeah, I know what
and
you mean.
that's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, true. As well, I know that we already talked about like just the project itself, but like I know that you said that your style is like mainly like lo-fi with a mixture of rap, R&B, pop, and rock. Like usually, like with those genres, what's the creative process for you, like when making music like this, and what would like a day in the studio be like for you, like when recording?
Hmm. It's weird because I never really it's not like a scientific process. It kind of just happens, and it's weird. It's weird whenever an artist is asked this question because the artist always says the same thing. They always say, "Oh, I don't know," just comes out of nowhere. You know, it sounds like a boring answer, but it's true. It just comes out of nowhere. Uh, for PinkPolygon, right? I used to just go on YouTube and look up some lo-fi beats and rap over that, but I wasn't satisfied with that. I'm like, if I die right now, I would only be remembered as a basic lo-fi rapper that raps on YouTube beats. And I started producing before I started singing and rapping. So I'm like, wait a minute, I could just produce my own beats because I did get better at producing. And I moved on from my iMovie days, and I was making pretty good beats on FL. So I'm like, hmm. So I'm gonna get into my next album, like the album I'm working on now, because I know that's a later question. Uh, but yeah, I'm just like, okay, from now on, I want to start producing my own music and focusing more on mixing, so it's like more high quality than it usually is. Um, but I guess when it comes to the way I did it in the PinkPolygon days, I guess I would just find a beat that I really like. I'll write over it, record it, mix it, and I'll post it like the same day I recorded it. But nowadays, it's a much more draining process. I would either I would produce a beat first or write the song first, and then once I got all that, I was probably like do like a little voice memo whenever I get an idea, like a melody or like a bar. I would just like either write it down or voice memo it, and then I would get to recording, and I would like start like recording like for months because I would never be satisfied with it because I'm trying to move on from the PinkPolygon days, and I'm trying to be like, okay, if I'm gonna sing this, I'm gonna do the best way I could. If I'm gonna rap this, then at the best flow I could possibly have. And then the mixing is another thing because I'm getting better at mixing, but I'm still kind of amateurish when it comes to mixing. So it's like a whole process, and it's like I definitely enjoy it because when the music comes out really good, I'm really happy about it. But it's definitely a much different process than how I used to do it back then for the Pink Polygon album.
True, true. I know what you mean, and that seems like pretty like interesting too as well. Because I know like in some cases too, projects do change from time to time, and like focusing on like what you want to do right now versus from before, like it's a great step into becoming maybe like some like maybe an artist that will actually definitely like rise up, or an artist that will definitely be more musically inclined to learn more and to change like the game in a way, you know? So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm trying to move on from lo-fi. I don't want to make lo-fi music anymore. Like I like lo-fi, but you know.
true. Yeah. I know like I had a previous question on here that said like what would be the most memorable moment or standout song from the project. I know that you said like it's mainly like a lot of old tracks, but if you had like a memorable moment or standout song from Pink Polygon, do you know what would that be? And can you give me a glimpse of like what that moment describes to you for the viewers out there?
I would say two songs. One of them, which is the opening track, "Everything in One," and then the other one, Kirby's Hentai. I'm gonna get into Everything in One. Everything in One. When I first recorded the song, it was like a really low effort song. Like I just recorded it really quickly, and there was even parts where I was kind of off beat a little bit, and it was kind of a lazy put together song. And I thought it was like I was just posting on SoundCloud as a throwaway song, but then when I posted it, everyone loved it. I'm like, whoa! Like everyone like really loved it. I'm like, it blew my mind. So I'm like, okay, the song is. I started listening. I'm like, okay, the song is actually really good, actually. And I think, see, like as I said earlier, just like music, like for me, just comes out of nowhere. So when I recorded the song and then when I listened back to it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is like a perfect description of like how I felt because I was dating this girl and I was like so in love with her. I'm like, whoa, this is like the most rawest emotion. Like it doesn't even matter how poorly it's mixed or how poorly it's recorded. It's just like full on how I feel on a song. And it's actually pretty like it's one of the songs that are kind of like nostalgic, and I think out of every song in PinkPolygon, it would probably age like better than the other ones because it's just like it's just a good feeling song. And then Kirby's Hentai wasn't even my song originally. It was actually posted on SoundCloud because I was the feature actually. And when I was posted on SoundCloud, it was actually the other artist that was on the song. It was actually on his page. But when I was putting the album together, I asked him if I could have like the song on my album because he doesn't have Spotify, and I always thought the song should be on Spotify because I really like it. And he sent me the song because he wanted the song to be like kind of like a joke song, not like a joke song to where it's like bad, but like just a playful song. So I don't know if you know what hentai is. Okay,
Actually, you know, yeah,
you know what hentai is?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Just
I don't have to describe it. But I was like, okay, so I guess I would just like it just came out of nowhere. It's like again, like these songs and the ideas just come out of nowhere. And I think I'm really good at writing hooks. So I'm just like, okay, I watch hentai and I download, search, hit, click, and I download, and I turn the volume down so she won't know. I don't want her to know. I'm just like, damn, the song is already done. That's all I need to do. And I recorded it, took a few takes, and I'm just like, okay, that's it. That's all the song needs. And it ended up being like a really memorable song. And a lot of people like it. And a lot of people they don't even some people don't even know what I'm saying, but they just like the way it sounds. And then when they find out what I'm saying, they like the song even more because it's funny now. Like not only is it a good song, but it's funny. So I think it's just an overall playful song, and it's the kind of song where I would just listen to it and I would just like go on a walk. It's like, yo, it's kind of just like a bop. It's
yeah,
like a good feel lo-fi song.
yeah, true. And I actually do like, you know, the whole like lo-fi genre in a way too. So like I've started like listening to like lo-fi in the past as well as like now, especially with artists like Pofu who actually had the song Copy, which was remixed from Be Bad Do Be, like some artists from I think England, and then you have other acts like Snod who recently dropped his album too. And I think XXX Tentacion also like worked on some lo-fi songs here and there, and like who else? Shiloh Dynasty too. So just like with all four of those acts alone, like do you feel like lo-fi would be like one of the biggest genres coming out, like maybe either this year or like in the later years to come?
I think I was actually a lo-fi fan before it blew up. I don't want to sound like a snob or anything, but I was really, really in love with lo-fi. But the more and more I listen to lo-fi, the more I realize that there's a lot of good lo-fi songs, but now it's kind of saturated with because I would hear lo-fi songs where like five different lo-fi songs use the same sample, and it's pretty like it's a lot of the time it's pretty generic for me because a lot of people obviously back in 2017 a lot of people sampled Shiloh Dynasty, and it was to a point where it was like kind of overused because you heard like the same song, the same sample, and then everyone was just doing it. And I think lo-fi is actually becoming slowly bigger, and it's definitely like a recognized genre even by the mainstream now. Like you have like I think Pepsi has like a lo-fi 24/7 mix on YouTube or something. I don't know. Like I know Will Smith also has one. It's just like it's definitely the mainstream now. Uh, but when it comes to being the biggest genre soon, that's a really tough question because I feel like to me at least, it's not like it's not good enough to be like at the top, but it's so popular nowadays that I would not like completely write it off. But for me, being like a kind of classic lo-fi fan, um, I see where it came from and where it's going, and I think it's kind of generic now. I know I sound like a snob, but I think it's kind of like dialing down to what it once was. Because at the core, lo-fi means low fidelity, but there are lo-fi songs that are like high quality as hell. It's like, whoa, this is not even lo-fi anymore. It's just they're just using the label. But um, yeah, like there's lo-fi songs that I hear on the radio. Like there's the song I forget how, like I don't really know how it goes, but it's like make a cup of coffee for your
By
head.
Pofu actually, Deathbed, which I also talked about. It's actually remixed by a song which was called Coffee by Beat Bad Doobie, who's like sort of like one of the rising indie pop acts in like the UK right now.
Oh,
Who's
you really
also
know your
like,
stuff.
huh?
You really know your stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I've yeah, I heard that song like way before like all the other lo-fi tracks, and I do feel that she's gonna also like be big too, and I do think Pofu will actually might have a chance to be bigger than where he is now because mainly with Pofu's track, it was mainly famous on TikTok actually.
But yeah, yeah, that's one of the one lo-fi songs that I actually hear on the radio consistently. Which a part of me is kind of happy, but at the same time, as an artist that kind of moved on from lo-fi, I'm like, damn, I did not see this coming. Because I never really had faith in lo-fi, but I still don't want to make lo-fi music because it's not what I want to do. But you know, I would always have PinkPolygon as a lo-fi album anyways. But I don't know. It still blows my mind because I'm like, whoa, lo-fi is actually a really big genre now. You know
Yeah,
what? I actually never realized how big it was until I started thinking about it now. Wow. Yeah.
yeah. I just have these like two quick questions, and I think it'll be done from there. I know that you said you lived in Toronto and Brampton as well. So, how do you feel about the Toronto music scene like at the moment right now? Do you feel that there should be some changes on the direction of where the Toronto music scene should go to, or do you think that it's fine as it is right now?
Um, there's obviously a lot of great musicians in Toronto, like a lot of really talented artists that are going under recognized, and of course, some of the biggest artists in the world is from Toronto. Like we have Drake, pretty sure Weekend's from Toronto. I know Daniel Caesar's not from Toronto, but when he was doing music, he was in Toronto. So there's definitely a lot of talent that comes out of Toronto. But when it comes to what people usually think of when it comes to Toronto music, like when it comes to the kind of Toronto trap music or Toronto drill, I really don't like it. Like I know a lot of people might be offended because they're like, oh, you don't like hood music or whatnot. No, I don't think hood music is bad. Like I think gangster rap and hip hop rap as a whole is like it's beautiful. Like I think to me personally, when it comes to parents, when they think of rap music, I think it's the Toronto music that kind of makes them not like hip hop. When hip hop is like such a beautiful genre full of like so many creative ideas. And I think when it comes to like Toronto music, because I used to work in a studio, a lot of artists would come in, and even just hearing my friends playing Toronto music around me, I can't distinguish who's who. They all kind of sound the same to me because they all have this. I feel like the more auto tune you use, the more it kind of detracts from your voice, and you sound more robotic. And since everyone's sounding kind of robotic, you can't really tell, the cadence or whose voice is who. And just and through the amount of saturation and how popular it is, you have a lot of disingenuous like hood artists that are like making like a bunch of Toronto drill songs, speaking a bunch of cap. When it's like, all right, like I would understand if it's genuine, but like you're not being genuine with your music, you're just doing it for clout. And and me as an artist, I really don't like when artists like I can't even call them artists when people are trying to make music are disingenuous about it. And like a part of me would always kind of I hate like the Toronto music, like the Toronto like the typical Toronto music where it's just like I just don't like the way it sounds, but I would be fine with it if it wasn't just like so disingenuous to a point.
Yeah. And I do feel like that there is a division with the Toronto music scene at the moment too, because there are like really like talented artists like from Toronto that make abstract or like something that's like outside of like the box, like outside the box. So with Just John, he's been working with Dom Diaz for a variety of his projects, which is like completely different from what Toronto music is, and people like relate to it in a way too, as well as like with other artists like KAH-MAY and this Oshawa-based artist named Oseko, who makes some pretty good conscious music too, as well as Hawaii Mighty. And I do feel like that the division only is persistent only because people really don't care like what other genres that Toronto has that people go into. It's mainly when you think about Toronto, it's hood music in a way.
Yeah, and another thing I want to embellish on is that because of like everyone kind of listening to hood music, it makes it hard for like pop artists, R&B artists, or even especially lo-fi artists to like make any scene in Toronto. Because if you play like a different kind of music around, so like Toronto bands, they're like, "Yo, turn this off, turn on the put back on the rap song," and then it's just another auto-tune crappy artist.
Yeah.
I don't want to down any other artist. Like I'm not talking about the good Toronto artists. I'm talking about the bad Toronto artists. But yeah, and also Toronto music is like incredibly violent. Like I don't want to sound like a parent, but I don't want to like really talk about it all that much because I know I'm not really a part of it, and hopefully you're not a part of it either. But there was this one song that like dropped back in like I think October. It dropped back in October, and just through that one music video, there was like 13 shootings, and like just that kind of politic music is just it blows my mind. It's just like yo, like
Yeah.
it's just like I didn't really want to talk about all that much because it's just like I have no place to talk about it. It's just all I could do is just really think about it and kind of just feel sad that like lives are being taken because of one song. Like it's just it blows my mind because I make music for people to feel good and to like have fun. But just to know that there's Toronto music, and I know it's not just Toronto, like all over the world, there's like hood music that starts drama. But just to think that like somewhere that I was so close to before I moved all the way near Barrie, like like there was a shooting that was in uh, Regent Park where I used to live. I'm like, what if I still live there? Would I be dead? Like it's so fascinating to think about, and it's sad. But a part of me wants Toronto to change musically, but at the same time, I know that it's not going to, and it's nothing I could do about it because Drake doesn't make that kind of music. The Weeknd doesn't make that kind of music. Daniel Caesar doesn't make that kind of music. So if these big artists can't change Toronto, then who can? You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Just to end off the interview, what are your plans for this year in terms of music and such? And do you have any like final words that you would like to say for any creative or any person like pursuing their dreams?
Oh yeah. I'm currently working on another album that's called Kamehameha, which is another Dragon Ball reference, and it's kind of a play off of my name, anyways. And this album is gonna be a pop album, mainly pop, but obviously there's gonna be hip hop, R&B, maybe a little bit of rock, not like kind of rock and roll kind of screamo music, but like the kind of more like I don't know how to explain like the kind of feel good rock, where everyone's just like yeah, like this feels good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so pop rock. I'm gonna fuse pop rock and fuse R&B and hip hop, like just a more kind of album that I want to make. The thing, it's fine, it's fine. When it comes to my own PinkPolygon, like a lot of people ask, "Oh, you make music? Let me hear it." But I'm always so insecure about it because it's like, oh, this is not like this is gonna catch me off guard because it's not like the kind of music you would hear. So I want to make music that I will be proud of, but I could also show people. So it's kind of like a healthy balance of mainstream and not mainstream music. So I would have some tracks that are like, okay, I can play this in front of anyone. I can play this in front of China Man. I can play this in front of someone else. But then also have music that's more personal to me that I probably wouldn't show anyone, but it's still meaningful. And it's definitely I'm really focusing on mixing and production and vocal performance, better rapping, better flows, better singing. I definitely, because a lot of people like Pink Polygon. I don't even like that album, so they like that, and this album's gonna like absolutely blow their mind. Um, so I have two albums kind of dropping in 2021. January 1st thing, I'm gonna drop my solo project, Kame House. And then in the summer, I'm working on an album called New Romantis, which is pretty much a collaboration album. So it's me and other artists that are kind of just like kind of put in all of their efforts, production, features into, and it's just gonna be like this one big album that I'm gonna do with a bunch of artists, which I'm really excited about because I'm like kind of the coordinator to it. I'm kind of like leading the project, so I'm kind of excited about it. Um, but when it comes to advice, personally, what I do to kind of keep myself pushing is that there are so many enemies in my life and so many people that hurt me that know I make music. And if I fail or quit, I know this advice is gonna be really dated when I'm older. I'm be like, don't say it. That's so cringy. But for me now, what keeps me pushing is that if I quit now or if I fail, I'm gonna be a clown to these people. And if I don't want to be a clown to these people, I gotta succeed because there's no way they can say anything. Because if I'm on the radio, on TV, or like they can't scroll 5 seconds on Instagram without seeing me, then like I don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
Because they can't say anything.
Yeah.
Like one of my biggest fears is being a clown to people. So for any like artists that are like kind of feeling like I don't know if I should continue. If you don't continue, you're gonna be a clown. I know that's really hard to hear, but it's what keeps me pushing because I don't want to be like, oh, I had this friend or I had this ex that was making music and now he's not like where is he now? What a loser, right? I know it sounds childish, but that's just kind of what keeps me pushing.
Yeah.